Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of SlummerTV. Hosting this episode is me, Veinhelm. You know me as Warren Crassus and Neon Divide. And I have two guests here with me today. We have lead environmental artist, dabbling in 2D, Sketchu. And then
Hello.
with me as well is also Phasedragon. He's the lead programmer for Neon Divide.
Hello.
And let's get started, shall we? So, lead off with you, Sketchu. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and your role in Neon Divide in great length for our audience?
Okay, hell yeah. So I'm Sketchu. I do a lot of 3D art, low poly art and stuff like that. Went to university, learned the tools of the trade. And for Neon Divide, I'm basically the lead artist. I do a lot of concept art, uh, designing characters and all that, and also helping create a lot of the actual 3D assets in the world. So there's different textures you might see or 3D stuff that's very customized that you might have never seen before. That's all me.
All right.
Yeah.
We definitely seen your work throughout past couple of seasons. Sketch has been with Neon Divide since season 1, and they've been an honorary member ever since. And someone who joined us in season 2, Phase Dragon, why don't you tell us about your role in Neon Divide and a little bit about yourself as well?
Yeah, so I got started with this project when Kier basically just asked me if I wanted to work on some fun vehicles, and I figured, hey, that's a cool challenge. And then I sent those over, and inevitably just went on from there and kept working on even more stuff. And so now I'm doing basically everything from the systems that the players interact with from a day-to-day basis, like the props and the buttons and everything, to the admin system with the admins and DMs deal with. I've been doing VRChat world development for since like 2018-ish, I think. But previously it was all SDK2 stuff. I've only really been doing C# now for about a year and a half. So yeah, which is if anybody is unaware, that's the programming language that we use for Neon Divide.
Okay. I appreciate that introduction. I don't know anything about that stuff, so obviously most of it's going to be Greek to me. Um, so, really back to Sketchu. Uh, So of course you handle a lot of the 2D stuff, but I do know you've also designed a few NPCs and creatures and a lot of the art that we see throughout Neon Divide. Tell me about the process. You know how you go about thinking about things look and then putting it to pen and paper and then applying it into the roleplay.
hmm Yeah. So for me personally, everyone's got their own different process and all that, but especially when working with the rest of the team and the DMs and stuff like that, I usually ask what is required or what is this thing that needs to be made. I would then go through getting keywords, looking at inspiration for it. Because I can also do the 2D art, I can actually draw a concept of the character or creature, whatever is required. And with that, depending on if I need to do anything else, I actually draw another thing that helps me 3D model the NPC that's required. So sometimes it's like, oh, there's complex things that I can't really just do with uh, my normal eyes. So I actually have a thing that's like a side view, a front view, and anything like that that I would require for the model. So like this one, for example, that I'm wearing, I modeled it and I had a front view of it. So I had the proportions and the outfit design already put into place and stuff like that. And of course, different extra features here and there when I need them. And then after that, most of it is the 3D modeling process and putting in Unity and just getting feedback, iterative design and feedback. It's uh it's a lot, but once I got into the flow of it, it's just like that is the process for me. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. That's very insightful. I know I personally, as a role player, I've seen your work in game. Obviously, I've seen a few characters themselves were designed by you, put together by you. Seen a lot of the concept art you've created, and then applying it to models, even conceptually, even if they're like some things are used. I've also seen a few of your models you just made for fun or just because you like the look of it. Um,
Mhm.
I know. I think somebody who's actually in our chat, Leroy, his character, uh, was designed by you. Correct? I believe that's true.
Yeah, yeah.
And we have the
It's actually
infamous
a model, yeah, that's
sketchy
like
model
public
concept.
available.
Yeah,
Yes.
if you have a sketchy model, you better be careful because um, I believe so. All I believe they're called myconids, right? All the mushroom people. Uh,
Yeah.
all of them are designed by you as well, right? Am I correct?
Yeah, the original version of Conk was something that kids saw on Pinterest and stuff, and then there's some different design stuff that Kay and I worked on differently. Bow, completely designed by me, Wisp, Jimmy, and Morel. It was lots of fun making them, of course. And it's like you see all of them there, their sketchy models, just that entire thing filling up your frame. And there's actually a couple other models I've made that are also by me that play as news. And I sometimes forget. It's like, oh shit, I made that. I'm looking at it right now in like the RP or something. It's like, wait a minute. It's it's funny sometimes. It is a very
Yep.
surreal experience just seeing my own creations that started off as just 2D drawings, be it environment or character, just there. It's and especially in VR, like it's one thing to see it moving on the screen, and then VR is just a whole other thing.
Yeah. I imagine you get similar satisfaction as some game developers do when they create concept art and then apply it to a 3D model, and then they see it being used in game. I mean, I've seen the kind of job satisfaction people have. I think that's one thing that's very interesting about this project and many other projects within VRChat is that you can take a concept and make it whatever time necessary and put it in a project like Neon Divide. You know, and then see your
Oh
work being
yeah,
used,
absolutely.
you know, represented, and all the characters also being represented. Because some of these characters, um, you're not play they don't they're not played by you, but you made their model, and conceptually, you had a voice in your head maybe, and then somebody almost conveys that to a T. It must be very satisfactory.
And the medium that we're working in, like an RP kind of like collaborative storytelling environment, just seeing that stuff come to life in that way is it's so different. Really it's really cool. I do not have the proper vocabulary to express enough. Like, yeah, on point there.
Okay. Alright. So, Phase Dragon, your creative process, I'm sure you have a lot to share about that. Your development side of things. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your processes?
Mhm. So creative process on the development side, definitely less. Uh, there's less creative, I guess, in if you consider creative to be art, but there's a lot of planning, and whenever we want to create a new system, a lot of it is just getting together and going out, is this a good idea? Is this a good idea? And just kind of figuring out a design document or flowchart or spreadsheet or whatever that outlines how a system is supposed to work. And then implementing that system with code. Um, and one of the things I like most about that process is trying to find flaws or holes in that system, and trying to either design it differently or work around those or things like that. Um, because just trying to run a system through its paces is the most fun part, you know. And then actually developing it, I don't know. That's just like once you've had the idea built, it's just a matter of making it happen. Um, so there's not a whole lot of creative design there, but yeah.
Okay. Uh, so of course, your side of things with programming is different than the environmental design and stuff like that. Your work, it's not like at, say, a visual sense. It's like something you see that's like in between the lines. It's something that's going on. Everyone's using it, maybe with or without knowing it. Say your uh, what is it? The weapon system, with collision with particles and people getting hit by the bullets, that registering. I believe pocket system as well as your design.
Mhm.
People use that all the time, and it's like very handy. It's not something you can really see, but you use it, and it's very applicable to the RP. It really changes how we do role playing VR chat with the systems you have in place. Um, You mentioned the cars as well, the vehicles. I believe that does ring true. That was the first thing I remember knowing about you
Mhm.
is that you were working on that. I believe my idea was, hey, why don't you add manual shifting?
There is
Um,
there is there is actually other vehicle systems which have manual shifting, but, but in particular, at least with that one, by Varnian, is that it's extremely realistic. It's meant to be more of a simulator. That's not really the feeling that we wanted to go for here.
yeah, no.
That's all a design choice. So yeah.
Oh yeah. Um, I personally haven't gotten a lot of driving in. I remember the what is it the dry run. I remember me and Brunswick were driving, and we somehow ended up in a sand pit. Didn't really work too well for us. First experience driving the vehicles. Uh, but
Oh, I've
there,
seen clips of that. I remember.
yeah, very terrifying.
Uh,
uh, of course, I'm not a wastelander, so I didn't use the vehicles very much, but I've seen them use it all the time. It's very very widely used. Because you have to in such a very long stretch desert wasteland. Uh, Maybe in the future it'll be usable in different maps, but it's kind of hard because they're like more compact. It's like you would in a city like this.
mhm.
Um, Tell
So,
me,
hmm. Well, what's your question first? Yeah.
yeah, my question is, when you were thinking about making the vehicle system, did you run into any problems? Because I think
Mhm.
Udon was relatively fresh at the time. Maybe I think it
Mhm.
was.
Absolutely. So, uh, yeah, there in particular with anything that's like physics based, like the vehicles, a lot of it is trial and error, just trying to tweak the settings until it feels good. And I went through several iterations of the vehicle system before we had something that was good. Um, so for example, I actually had a version. The very original idea was that there would be four thrusters on each side, and then in order to move that movement, the movement of the vehicle would be entirely determined by the thrusters changing their direction, and like so, if you want to turn, they have to turn like or like this, uh, and like in order to turn left and right, and you could strafe by moving them all at the same time, and it was very cool. But it was um, and it was relatively realistic, but it did have some problems where anytime you wanted to move forwards, it would rotate the thrusters, which would cause it to dip down and then start moving forward, which didn't feel very good. So for the most part, we pretty much just scrapped all of that like ultra realism stuff and just made it so that like it just it just gives a force forwards, which I think works better.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, in a role play like this, right? uh, we gotta keep it as a role play. You give too many realistic factors, it's just another video game. I know people have mostly said that a project like Neon Divide, it may be using VRChat as a platform, but it's almost like its own thing in some ways. It's got a lot of originality to it, functions and stuff that we use on a daily basis. Makes it feel like an RPG. It's really really cool. Uh, uh, and speaking of that, and how far this project has come, Sketchu. So you've been part of the team since season one. What would you say?
Mhm.
How much has changed creatively about this project? How much do you think has changed? Like the expansion of the world, considering that.
Oh, in some ways, some things haven't changed too much. It's very much similar. There's still a lot of nostalgia from season one for me personally, even in season two and all that. And then in other ways, uh, because in season one, we didn't have Udon yet. Udon was still in development. That was a massive game changer for us. When season two was being developed, we could actually have that stuff being implemented. And that's like something that is like witchcraft to me sometimes, what you do, Phase. Just having all that udon stuff implemented, it changed so much for me. And I'm like, holy cow, that is it is very cool. And of course the map stuff too, the things that I had to work on. I did a bunch of concept art for the wasteland and the undercity and a little bit for upper city. We had like a bunch more signs and stuff put down. It made it feel a lot more complete uh to like season one, I suppose. If that makes any sense. Like even
Mhm.
though a lot of stuff is still here, it a lot more was added, especially the functionality side and the little bits that I could also put in. So just looking back from being there in season one, uh, writing down like the first dot points about what needed to be put in the map, all that, it's changed so much in very interesting ways that I didn't even think was possible back when I wrote down those first
Oh
notes.
yeah,
So
100%.
it's very surreal sometimes in that respect as well. Writing those first notes down and top down art and not knowing that it could evolve like this.
Oh yeah, it took
Yeah.
quite a leap from season one to season two. Um, that man sold his soul to the devil. Everyone remember that. Uh, he's not allowed in churches anymore. Um,
We both sold our souls, dreams.
oh yeah, when you do
Yeah.
role play development, you are selling your soul. Absolutely. Uh, your So both your roles are incredibly important, and what's important about yours, Sketchu, is when it comes to a role play world, you have to work hard to make it look lively, feel like a world that people would be living in. I mean, right now we're sitting in the courtyard of the hotel. You know, we're sitting on lawn chairs that I maybe sat at for most of my life as a kid in front of a bonfire. But we're inside of a cyberpunk city with drones and cybernetic implants and stuff like that. And it makes it feel so real. We're at the very bottom of the food chain, in places like the row
Yeah.
itself. Uh, and shout out to Hopeless Bay, who does a lot of the graffiti here in the row. It also makes it feel very alive. Um, you designed a lot of the stuff we saw in the wasteland with, I think, the Oasis, right? And
Mhm.
and a few other things. Uh, and what's important about Phase's work is the mechanical side of things. The game has changed. Like the role playing game has changed. VRChat roleplay isn't the same as it was years ago. Um, I remember when all that stuff started out. It was very minimal. It was very simple. Nowadays, there's a lot you
Yeah.
gotta do, and a lot you can do. With Udon, Phase is able to do all this voodoo crap that pretty much scares me every night. I have nightmares about it. I cannot imagine spending so much time on that. Maybe I don't know if it's effortless for you, but I would cry.
Thousands of
And
hours.
w- I've mentioned it before. Neon Divide has that sort of with all these mechanics in place that you created with a gun system, pocket system, speech system, admin panel, among other things. It creates a new level to roleplay. I dare I say Neon Divide and the work that all the development team did really changed the game of roleplay like drastically fast. I remember the time span between season 1 to season 2, it wasn't that long. I expected it to be way longer considering all the work that went into it. Uh, and it's miraculous. Um, Matter of fact, since I mentioned the speech system, tell me a little bit about that phase
Mm.
because that thing, the speech system is very, very, very important to
Oh,
roleplay.
yeah. Sure. So the speech system actually really um the origins of that, or rather the technology behind that, kind of dates um back to SDK2, and where one of the biggest things that I loved working with was something called a prop spawner, which is not what we call prop spawning, but it's just the name of the thing. That what it did was it assigned a unique object to each player, um, and then that was like a platform for you to do things with that object, and then everybody would know, oh, you're talking about this player, which means I'm going to do the things to them. And I did a whole bunch of stuff where basically anything where you like grab something off of your shoulder and like you can throw it down and you can use it or whatever. Those kind of projects were my favorite thing. And so when Udon came out, the prop spawner prefab was completely gone, right? Because it's Udon. We have to remake everything from scratch. And so ever since Udon began, I was always trying to make a version of a of the prop spawner for Udon. And so I went through like 3 different iterations that did something sort of like that, until eventually landing on the one that we have now, which I'm using here, um, which basically is just a platform for launching things like that. And once you have that kind of platform, it makes it super easy to do things like voices, where just a single player can say to their object and say, "Hey, I'm changing my voice to this, whatever," and then everybody else can receive that and say, "Oh, I received this linked variable, and I know that I belong to this person, which means that I am going to set their voice to that value, whatever." And so getting those systems all interact together is a really fun challenge, and it's a uh, kind of like that's kind of like the holy grail of like a interaction system between players. Is once you have that platform, you can do anything under the sun. So
Oh yeah.
um,
Um, that's what's interesting about VRChat is the ability to do much more than you would at face value. And I think you've definitely like hit it out of the park regarding that. Uh, I think without the ability to do all of these things, I think the game wouldn't be the way it is now. Uh, VRChat as a whole, I mean, not just roleplay, right? Um, but moving on from that, uh, you also worked on the admin panel, which is a different spin to things, right?
mhm.
It's one thing to have the speech system in place. Maybe it's weird to compare them, but I think the admin panel is like a different category of useful than the rest of the systems who have different applicable features. Tell me a bit about the admin panel real quick.
Yeah. So the admin panel I actually started working on before I even was thinking about getting involved in this project. Um, I just wanted a thing that allowed me to just type in commands and say like teleport this player to that player, or set this variable on this game object, to this value, whatever, or run this program, or display this value, whatever. And I kind of just jumped headfirst into it and just made it work. And I'm sure I would do it differently now but you know, it was a very, very cool project because it's it was completely outside of my comfort zone. And um, one of the cool things about working with Udon is that you can't just import some library from the internet and be like, there's a command parsing library, or like maybe I want to just import some entire language from the internet into this program. You can't do any of that. You have to make everything from scratch. And so everything from the interface to type commands into, to the thing that parses the commands, to like just even the nitty gritty bits, like if I want to parse 5 plus 5, I have to, find separate it by all the different operators, and then store whether it's a plus or a minus, and then parse the 5 into a float, parse the other 5 into a float, and then add them up because it's a plus. And if it's division, do something completely different. All kinds of stuff. It's a lot of manual work, and that was a really fun challenge
Yeah.
that I loved working on.
I'm
And
sweating about it. Just hearing about it.
yeah. And so when Kier first got me to work on the vehicles, I didn't think that was going to be integrated in the project. But at a certain point, it was just like, this makes total sense in an RP sense, because it's just it can do what an RP needs.
Yeah, why not, right? It could be used, so why not put it in? I think
That's
that's pretty much
awesome.
the yeah, that's pretty much the message about this project. Why not do this? Why not? Put it in. What harm could there be? Of course, with all these systems in place, call me a backwater kind of guy, but using this comparison, you put a lot of gadgets in a car, there's more problems that could happen. A
Mhm.
lot of maintenance has to be done about these features, which is kind of it's worth it, right? Uh, but as VRChat changes, we got they update Unity every once in a while, the SDK and all that. So some changes have been made here and there. Uh, and I applaud you for keeping up with all of it, along with the other programmer, Gambit. I believe it's just you two,
Mhm.
right? You're lead and he's the other programmer.
Gambit did some work at the beginning. So like he made like the universal button scripts to open doors and whatever, and the toggle thing to change stuff. Um, I mean, he's still in the project. But I'm not sure if he has his own projects recently.
He's vibing. Don't
And
worry about it,
yeah, yeah, he's keeping busy.
as we all should. Sketchu, as the environmental artist, uh,
Hmm.
what are you most looking forward to for next season? Anything you like to talk about?
Oh, hmm. Well, I know there isn't many changes immediately, but in terms of like stuff I'm doing in general, there's different systems that have been worked on that all the development team like helping design different parts of it, and I of course have a part in it in terms of doing the concept art and all that. So that's really cool. But specifically environment stuff right now, there is a map that is being worked on that's basically the mission map,
Oh yeah.
large kind of overworld thing. I look forward to being able to like put any kind of artwork or other stuff in there if possible, or help with designing some things there. Kier, who is like the lead level designer and puts the stuff together at the end of the day, he's currently working on that a lot. But when I am able to also help with things like designing stuff or any concept art to help get an idea or vibe across for different sections of that map, I am looking forward to helping with that. And the other thing I'm looking forward to that I mentioned just before, in a very vague sense, is there is going to be full-on crafting supported. So people that role
Oh,
play going out and doing different things, collecting stuff, or the missions that maybe your character would be going on. I get to help
if he
make
lives.
items and design stuff. for that stuff that people interact with and what they see. So
Okay.
it's a big thing, and it's like exciting for me at least.
No, I think that's very exciting. I actually, yeah, you just refreshed my memory. The crafting system. I saw something about that. I actually personally think that's gonna be very cool. That's once again another thing we're adding to this RP that's gonna make it even more expansive. And I gotta say, I love it. Um, what about you, Faye? Is there anything you're looking forward to for next season?
Yeah, so definitely looking forward to the crafting system. That's work in progress, underway. Um, that's cool. I mean, there's lots of other systems though. There's gonna be ability system. There's gonna be a status system. I think the status system might be my favorite technically because it just solved a very technical problem that needed solving, which was that like previously, let's say I wanted to make someone slow, I could totally just have a command which set their move speed to X whatever, and then their move speed would be that. But how do you bring it back? How do you give a duration to that? So the status system set out to fix that, where I can have a list of status effects like slowness, haste, speed, armor, um, accuracy to your guns, and can be buffs, debuffs, visual effects, anything. And the purpose of the status effect system is that you can just give someone a status effect with a certain strength and with a duration, and it'll take care of itself. I don't have to worry about um, removing it from them later. um, just from a technical, like basically there's a lot of systems which actually use the status effect as its backbone, even if you might not realize it. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that in use, and I'm with the way that it was built, I'm confident it's going to be robust enough. Knock on wood, but um, one of my favorite systems I've developed so far.
Okay. I actually, that's actually very interesting. Yeah, the whole status effect thing could change another level to it. The accuracy thing is very interesting to me. Like, are you talking like lowering the spread of a gun? Like, because I
Yep.
know they all have like spreads.
Yeah, that's going to be so. Um, for example, you could have like a lot of this stuff is totally possible, though we don't specifically have anything. We don't specifically have guidance for this because you kind of can just mix and match a lot wherever, and as long as the DM thinks it's not overpowered, it'll just you can totally do it. Is you can
Yeah,
do things like have an ability where you increase your accuracy for 10 seconds, which is just enough. It's like kind of as a sniper breathing in, to
yeah,
slow your breathing to make that shot, stuff like that.
yeah.
Though,
Focus.
yeah, though snipers are usually pretty accurate already, it would apply more
Hmm.
to like rifles. But with that accuracy adjustment, we'll probably also have more of a difference between combat and non-combat characters, where combat characters might have more base accuracy than non-combat characters, for
Yeah,
example.
like mine, for example.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so where we previously balanced like rifles is like, especially the Mars rifles, as they were practically lasers because they had to be, because that's the only option, and if they were inaccurate, then it's like you can't really hit anything. So what we could do is make it so that they're inaccurate by default, and practically nobody can use them unless you're like combat 4 or whatever, and then that's where they actually
Oh,
start to be good kind of things. So we've got a
I
lot
like
more
that.
we have so many more, things that we are capable of tweaking now, with the combat system.
Okay.
We have
That you know that
actually mm,
that's a double duty feature because that'll help with like balance things. Because one of the biggest things that are a complication, but it's not really the biggest deal. Is that there's like player ability versus character ability, right? Anyone could use the guns, technically speaking, because how the objects work. But with that in place, you need real skill to use them. Um, sorry. Sorry, he's working. He's a part-time sweeper. Um, and that's gonna be very handy. The
Mhm,
accuracy thing very interesting to me. I my character has an overlay system that I'm going to be trying to have emphasis on in next season called the Oni system, which basically helps him
mhm,
in combat. If I that accuracy adjustment thing will allow me to be applying it in a role play.
mhm.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah,
That'll be
That
very
sounds
interesting.
so cool.
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Love it.
the slow thing, say someone's wounded or has a limp, that could come into great play.
Absolutely. Yeah,
That's
we've
very immersive.
one of the plans that we have is to completely overhaul the combat system. And so we kind of saw a little bit of this at the end of last season where players could optionally uh, have a number displayed on their screen. But one of the biggest problems with that number is like, what the heck does the number mean? So, one of the big parts of combat in this is that we're working with the DMs to figure out basically a flow chart of every single step along the way of like what when you take this damage, what does it mean? What choices do you have? What does the DM do in this situation? And I'm really happy, or I'm really excited to eventually, show that to everybody because I think it's a really I think with everybody's input and making sure it's ironed out and working good, I think it'll be a a much more standardized and way of combat that actually makes sense instead of
Mhm.
just whatever. In particular though, the number so, like, the number of balance sheets from last season was basically 1. We have a whole spreadsheet of all the guns, how much damage they do, how much, uh, how much rate of fire they have, their reload speed, everything, in that sheet. This next season, we have expanded that to 8 balance sheets, and that includes crafting, salvaging, guns, combat, abilities, talents, and more. So there's a lot more coming on.
Alright.
That'll be very exciting. So
Okay, well, once again, I don't know if you tricked the devil or something, but you clearly sold your soul more than once. Um, Once again, changing the game with those systems in mind. Uh, Only a Neon Divide, I guess. So I guess we have a lot to look forward to next season. So Sketchu, I have a couple more questions for you, and then we could
Mhm.
probably move on to viewer questions, or Patreon support questions, whichever you want to call it. Um, were there any things that you worked on throughout the seasons that you wanted to use, but in the end couldn't really apply it somewhere?
Hmm. That's a tough one because in some ways, ideas I had, uh, even back in season one, they're kind of like in the process of being implemented or have already been implemented. Like I had the idea of like more maintenance tunnels and like part of the map. It was eventually like for the Undercity, but then Gambit had some time and actually put like different sewer tunnel things and maintenance tunnels of wires and stuff going everywhere. Like he and Kay like have that in this map now. So that's one idea that originally wasn't in, and I had like a top-down drawing of some maintenance systems or something out of the map, and now it's kind of there in like a different way, shape, and form. So
Yeah.
it's interesting like that. There's other ideas like having some stuff out in the wasteland or things I wanted for Upper City, but I think it's more that there just wasn't enough time with the timeline we did have to develop in to really even give those ideas enough time on my end when it comes to developing things. Just the conceptual stage. They're just, uh, I guess, in a way, I just couldn't afford to give that idea more time to stew over, sort of thing, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
And even other things like season 1, if you remember, there was a train station thing or something, and it
Hmm.
actually led to an inner area. That was a thing I made in like a day or two, and now it's being currently worked on by Kier in terms of like he's making the layout. He's done a lot of work on that. I'm sure I'd have loved to talk about it sometime, but that idea I had and kind of just built as a tiny thing, it may be getting scrapped or not really in use anymore, but it's being much better realized now, which is it's really cool. Like this small idea from before, even though it's not exactly the same, it's coming back, which is I'm anticipating it. It's gonna be fun. Uh Anything else? I don't really think so right now. Not that I can think of again. It's just not even enough time to really let those ideas develop more into concepts and stuff to share with
Hmm.
others. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of your concept work. I've seen a lot of it applied. I can't really think of anything on the top of my head that hasn't been. Another question I have is, will somehow Conk's pecs get any sweatier and glistening this next season?
Oh my gosh. I don't know if I want to do that for my own mental sanity or anything like
It's a
that,
yes or
but
no question, Sketchu. You're keeping
I'm
me on the
sure
fence here.
Kit will say yes. Kit would probably say yes.
Here, we'll say
He
yes.
wanted it last time. He wanted it last time. I can't keep saying no. Can't keep saying no.
All right. Um. So I think I might have formulated a new question for you, Phase.
Mhm.
So when it comes to a project like Neon Divide, I think from what I understand, you've been around the VR chat like development community for a while.
Yeah.
Dare I say you probably been around longer than I have. What year did you start doing this?
The
Uh,
beginning of 2018.
oh, okay. No, I'm only a few weeks older than you then in that regard. I've seen a lot of developers from here and there doing all this crazy stuff. I mean, you have multiple groups of people in VR chat. You got people who down to chill. You have artists. You got people like FaZe who program and do all kinds of crazy stuff, and once again sell their souls. Um, since joining Neon Divide, do you think like your horizons have expanded a little bit, or maybe you feel
Mm.
like you had a really good place to apply your, I guess you could say, creativity or expertise?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah. So, yeah. Well, before I got involved in Neon Divide, I was kind of just making stuff and then throwing it out there into the void, which is tough. You gotta do your own marketing, and I'm definitely not a marketing person. And so the biggest thing that Neon Divide gave me was just an audience to throw stuff at and see, and then they just and to give feedback on and to appreciate and to provide, it's really cool having just being able to belong to a group of people that is interested in what you're doing. And like, so I've been involved in many development groups, like prefabs, which is amazing. And I like, if anybody's interested in getting into world development, like, prefabs is kind of, I think, I don't know the outsider perspective very much, but I think it's kind of it's kind of like that, oh man, you're in prefabs kind of thing, like, um it's just um but the thing about being in a world development group is that everybody is always busy working on their own worlds, right? And so
Yeah.
it's not an audience to share things with, it's a group of peers to ask questions and to answer questions and to and so um it's not it's great being involved in a community like that to brush up on your skills, and everybody builds on top of each other. They share things, and they have creativity, and they take one thing and they turn it
Yeah.
into something else. And I love working with that group of people, but it's not an audience, right? And as a creator, one of the biggest things that keeps people going is an audience, and so that's why I think it's great to be involved in a group like Neon Divide. Um,
Hmm.
Yeah,
Uh,
prefabs, we all got our heads down, we're doing shit.
yeah,
it's interesting you say that about an audience because I think one of the highlights, at least from my experience in commissioning people, doing all this other crazy stuff for my models, is that they wanted to know how people reacted. You know, you have a small group of people you can show this to, but an audience can appreciate it at a grander scale. There's really a lot of sharing and exposure you're getting from just everyone seeing it at work. I think it's truly
yeah.
something special there. Um, yeah, now it's time for Patreon questions because we got like 15 minutes left or so. Uh, Sketchy, I want you to. Can you catch this?
I could
Can you
try.
catch your arm?
Oh,
Give it, give it. Oh, no! Stick
oh
up right in
no!
the face! I'll grab it.
I
All
got
right,
it.
let's see here.
I got him. Mine now.
I have to
I
open up
have
on
the
my phone
talking
because I'm an old
stick.
man. I have to re-open the doc. Make sure it's updated. All right. All right. So I think the yellow questions are the ones I asked, right? What does yellow mean? Okay. All right. So first question I see here comes from Tiny Torin. Uh, their question is, how did you two get involved with the project? Uh, Phase, let's go ahead and start with you. I believe you started last season.
Yeah, yeah, the beginning of season 2, it was the vehicles. Yeah, I think we've already talked about that. I'm very curious about Sketchy's answer, though.
Yeah, Sketchy, how did you get involved?
Oh, I'm holding the talking stick. Even though it isn't too nice to say the name or anything, it is still something I fondly reminisce about to an extent. Uh, so I will say his name, but it's okay. Uh, I first got involved in a project, like I had been doing small map things. People knew my map from back in like December 2017 or something. I made like a little forest thing and I made a couple more and I had a lot of different friends. I met a person called Wi-Fi Punk who was also like into map making and made some stuff too. And he and I think Hopeless Bay as well, they were kind of both telling me about a commission that someone was interested in for a mountain pass map. And it was Arcadum who wanted something for an RP that I didn't really know much about. I did not know much about the RP scene at all, really. I would look at Twitch every now and then, and I would see some stuff every now and then of like, oh, that's really cool. They're doing like storytelling in VR, and I've always been interested in that. Like I've drawn some little comics. I design a bunch of characters and story ideas and world building myself. And I made the mountain pass for an RP called Forbidden Knowledge that he was running at the time, and it was like the finale. So that was uh that was the first thing I got into, and that was my first step into the RP world. And like you said of having an audience thing earlier, just seeing people walking through a level and stuff I designed and how the designs and concepts that I came up with, how the characters interacted with that was like it blew my mind because
Yeah.
it's very different from say a map I had and I just like that. There
Okay.
was one or two other projects that I kind of wanted me to like work on or something. Didn't really make much progress. And then one day he invited me to like a little nighttime like back alley map and told me this idea. He's like, I had this idea of like doing a cyberpunk like role play. And I started jotting down the first notes for what would be called Caliso, now Neon Divide. And it has
Mhm.
grown insanely from that point.
Yeah.
So that's there's a lot more there. I met a bunch of other people that are now wonderful like team members of all that. Like back then it is a lot, but even though there's some, Arcanum and all that, I do just remember that fondly of like being invited there and being told about the thing, and I shared some ideas. That's just like the creative side of it, right? I loved that kind of stuff. And I'm like, sure, I'll work on it. And that's how I got involved. Literally, first person being told about what is now Neon Divide. It is,
Okay.
it's fun. It's,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
100% agree. Very fun to be
man.
a part of this. Uh, all right. So next question we got is from Schmoodle. Never met them in my life. Don't recognize them. Uh, can you confirm the rumors that President Goldman is actually a pill bug inside a mechanical man, and if they are plotting to take over the planet as we know it? I have the answer to that actually. Insider knowledge. I actually played Goldman. I'm not sure if anyone knew that. Yeah, definitely a pill bug inside of a mechanical man. The model was made by matter of fact, was made by Phase while he was sleeping. He didn't know what was happening at the time. And yeah, I mean, he's planning to take over the world, but one step at a time. Let's not spoil too much. But yeah, definitely a pill bug. So let's see. Next question, also from Shmoodle, person I don't know, never met them. In season 1, we had a map made for a zombie mission for Locke's old ship, the Retribution. Is there any chance of it being made public for the fans to explore it like the other public maps at some point?
Hmm.
I don't have the answer to that. You two.
I don't
I
either.
I mean, realistically, that would be up to Kier. But I
Yeah, King
suspect.
Gambit.
Well, the problem is that was made in SDK 2, and so
They'd have to update it.
the project has been
Oh,
switched over
yeah,
to SDK
yeah.
3, and so everything, all of the triggers and stuff have been lost. Um, I mean, the environment itself, I believe, is still there, unless I don't know, maybe if it uses some prefabs or whatever, that maybe those
Okay.
prefabs have gotten messed up, or the materials, whatever. Who knows what could have happened to it? But
Well, I guess the answer to that
yeah,
then would be not for the foreseeable future. There'll be a lot of
yeah,
things that they had to fix for it.
yeah,
Um, who knows? Maybe we'll see the retribution at one point. Maybe it didn't crash into the sun.
yeah.
Maybe I actually drove it as Pillbug Goldman.
Hang on, let me just.
Do I need to update my sheet
Gilbert
here?
Oh, did you
Golden.
did you miss it? No.
All right, chat. You've been very patient and annoying me. So go ahead. What questions does chat have? The first one I see is the first one I'll ask or answer. One of the two.
I love
Uh,
chat. Hello, chat.
I think
You're
there's been
beautiful.
I think there's been questions
Oh,
before.
is there a channel for
Mm,
questions in the Discord?
mm,
Okay, so we'll just take them through this chat then. Okay. Um, what's the favorite part of the map? Oh, what's Sketchu's favorite part of the map she has made?
Ooh, favorite part of the maps?
From Kier VR. I don't know who that is.
Oh, I have no idea who that is either. Valkyria. My favorite part of the different maps, I guess. I love the layout of them, but also just the all the different signs, the lighting. I absolutely love the lighting on all of them. I know maybe a bit of a too technical thing for chat here, but the lights in a lot of the different maps is baked, and there's just something about having the baked lights and how it looks when it's on everything. It's especially in the row here, this lighting here, there's different parts of the street. It's it's something else. And of
All right.
course, all the neon signs I made for it. I love that stuff. Undercity, the way that place is lit up, the different zones and stuff, like Fire district is kind of reddish and all that. Air district is like light and yellow. The water district has like this blue fog and stuff like that
Mhm.
everywhere and different little lights. I drew concept art for the water district, having these little blue flames and stuff sitting on the water. And that stuff was actually implemented on it. And I love seeing them just sitting on the water. And oh my gosh, the reflections of the water district with the signs and neon signs reflecting on it. That's probably my number one. It's up there.
Okay.
And yes, the reflections in the mushroom cave. There's mushroom cave, pretty lights and stuff. That's also number one. It's like water reflections everywhere. It's
Question, are we able to go over
woo.
time for additional questions? 'Cause we didn't have a lot of questions. Okay, sure. Alright, continue.
Cool.
Yeah.
Alright,
Yeah.
bet.
There's two of
We'll use
us.
up every minute.
There's two people.
All right.
Um, yeah, wow. So Sketchu pretty much loves everything they've ever done for those maps, from what I can tell.
I seem to
Um,
have something about water reflections. Like
Me too. I actually love that kind of concept. Is
I like the shiny.
from
Shiny you.
I
You
need to
shiny.
zoom in. From Zindrum, is there gonna be a Pillbug versus Snail gang war? I think that's for you, Sketchy.
Oh. Coming soon.
Well,
Coming
Coming
soon.
soon.
have the snails actually made it into a canon episode yet?
I think so. There was like a
Really?
business snail in the Upper City once.
I guess
Yeah.
Oh.
that'll be a
Oh.
season 3 plot, I think. The
Season 3
gang war.
plot. Season 3 plot. DMs, if you're there,
Uh,
snail and pillbug war. We need it.
all right, so next question. Flare Blitz 66, will Warren get new armor? No, he's modifying his current armor. Uh Next question is from Herwald or Harrywald? I can't tell. What does GEB mean?
Oh, Geb. It's the Egyptian god of the earth.
Oh, cool. Um, Next question is from Bisley Gear. How does one dev team attract so many absolute heroes? It was me.
Hmm.
I contacted every single one of them. I had their speed dial.
Absolutely.
It's
100%
mostly
true.
because I sent them
Hmm.
uh my my pictures. The ones I only sent to devs.
Not
The
even
next one
pictures.
is
All he had to say was
for.
hello, and I'm like, I'm doing it. I'm
Oh yeah,
here.
I don't
Hi.
even know who Sketchu is. I just kind of sent them a message.
No.
Next question is from
Cool.
Snapman_I_am Phase. Do you have some cool tech ideas that you haven't found a use for or
Hmm.
haven't fully fleshed out yet?
Hmm. Um. Oh man. Well, one of the things that I really want to do, which is not going to be anytime soon, is do is I want to make like a whole RTS system where like DMs have control over like a dozen NPCs or more, and they can like circle them and tell you go here with this formation and like attack players and
Oh
stuff like
wow,
that. Oh man, it'll be so cool.
Oh
But
shit.
but it's just so far beyond the scope of what we want to do right now.
yeah.
It would be really cool though.
All right.
That sounds awesome.
Next question is also from Flare Blitz 66. What is your favorite new corp name? Personally, I
Mm,
like Kyoto's new name, Shimetsu.
mm.
Yes,
Not
I was gonna
biased.
say the same.
They put a lot of thought into
Shimetsu.
Valkyrie.
that. Actually, saw it all unfold. They like
Mhm.
they played Russian roulette, and whoever lived last got to pick the name.
Mm.
Hell yeah. That's how naming should be done. We all have a different one. Whoever survives gets to keep the
Yeah.
name.
The player base has been cut down recently. Every single corp name costed at least 5 lives. So let's see here. Another question
Corporates were harmed in the making of this.
from Bush Boy. What would you do if someone told you debated an RP? I would shoot them. End of story. Though it probably Atlantis or whatever I can't. What's their new name now? What's Atlantis' new name?
Trident.
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 Probably want to find a way to make debate into a in-world thing. guaranteed.
Oh my
I mean, they
goodness.
already had
Oh,
conch.
oh,
Um,
I
that would be a
get
great
it.
thing for another corporation to say to the people of Geb as an insult. Oh, I love
that would be
that.
great too. Another
Yes.
question from we're gonna rapid fire this shit. I'll tell you what, Varen Velasquez, Phase, how did you get started into programming?
Um, oh man, I started programming when I was, let's see, um, in 2008. I played Roblox, up until like 2012, and at
Oh,
that
here we
point,
go.
um,
Same.
yeah, nice, yeah, Roblox was great, and that had Lua scripting language, and yeah, I just kind of messed around there. I never really, I made like a helicopter one time, that was pretty neat, but I never really went super deep into it, I just kinda knew my way around it. Though one of the things, though I took my knowledge of Lua, oh, I made a really cool thing in Minecraft, modded Minecraft, where, if you have turtles, turtles are so overpowered, they're just like these little things that you can program them to do whatever you want, and, like, in modded Minecraft, there's nuclear reactors and gigantic trees, and so what I did was I took the turtles and programmed them to cut down giant trees all day, and turns out, and by having a big enough, like, furnace, like, coal generator array, or, like, charcoal generator array, I was able to make more power than a nuclear reactor, which is pretty neat.
Oh
Dude,
my gosh.
basically, in short, Phase is a hacker. So
Always been
don't let him on
interested
your
in,
Minecraft server. He might
yeah.
own it at the end of it.
Yeah, just always been interested in
So
making things that work. It was fun.
Danger.
Strawberry Bubbles 01 says new foods in the RP.
Mm.
Uh, I mean, it's really mostly the same foods. I think they're expanding a little bit, aren't they?
If there's a little bit of edits that
Mm.
can be done here and there for things that make sense.
Yeah.
There's still like a lot of different things that need more attention. But I'm sure if I have time, like mid-season or whatever, and there's good reason for it, new foods, definitely. That'd be cool.
Um.
Every single
Yeah.
time I make a food model, I regret it because I want to eat. Don't make food models. You'll
uh,
regret it.
Um. Okay. Another question. We have one from Case Phase 5. Don't know who that is either. Phase. What are the chances we would ever get guns that have ammo counters and require us to
Mm.
craft actual ammo? Hmm.
Yeah. So,
That's rough.
the current way that guns work with the reloading is kind of just a it was just a super simple, like, "Hey, that'll work." And, it does work,
Kind of.
but, yeah, I
Yeah. Kind
definitely
of
wanna
thing
make
you don't really
something.
overcomplicate, is it?
Yeah, yeah, I do wanna improve it later, but, there's a lot of challenges with making ammo be actual pickups, in that, like, that just multiply, like, if you have a gun and, like, 10 cases of ammo, now you have 11 props, and that just complicates it a lot. So,
Mm-hmm.
I would need to have a backing, like, a system to in order to handle having that many prompts. And I've got ideas,
Yeah.
but and then actually we're in the original scope of season 3, before we, because I don't know, do we ever actually announce the original scope? The original scope was gonna be like a solid year of development.
I don't think so. I think
Yeah,
it was only appearing a little bit. It wasn't that long
yeah.
though.
So,
Mhm.
yeah, I actually wanted to implement something like that, in the original scope, but, that is one of the things that had to be cut in order to match in order to hit the shorter deadline that we decided on for season 3 instead. Um, yeah.
Um. All
Eventually,
right.
though.
Well, yeah.
Maybe
Eventually, it's
mid
just like a maybe.
yeah.
We'll
It's something
see.
that, like, development doesn't stop just because the season stops, so maybe that's something that'll happen in the middle of the season, or maybe it'll be season 4, I don't know.
All right. So pretty much already answered that. Answered that. Oh. How do you say that name? Another question from Phase. I'm gonna say that's Phase Daniel just spelled really crazy. What has been the biggest inspiration for you all to make maps for Neon Divide? I think that's a sketchy question.
Well, making the maps, at least from my point of view,
Yeah, what's the inspiration?
uh, I guess there's different parts to that question, so I'll break it down. I have inspirations from video games and stuff. Like I love the Zelda series and stuff like that. From like little Sketchu playing video games on the 64 sort of thing. And when it's stuff like the wasteland and all that, I think about that kind of stuff. Inspiration there. The other big thing though is the player base for Neon Divide is a massive inspiration because seeing them populate the world, the collaborative storytelling, it's inspiring to me, honestly. You're inspiring. You're inspiring. You're inspiring.
That's a bad idea. If I inspire anything you make, it better be sexy. Um,
And it's just lovely.
oh yeah.
Mm.
So, another question is for Leroy. Ant plans. You didn't spell it right, buddy. Any plans you can tell us about reunion? Wouldn't you like to know, Leroy? Wouldn't you like to know? Um, Plans? Well, we plan to drive the story for it a little bit. Maybe go more into the background of those involved, like um, Bringus's character, Bertram, uh, my character, Brunswick's character. We'll see what happens. There's nothing really I can reveal about it. There's nothing too crazy. Uh, Cure, we already talked about that. Um, Everyone's pinging Monty.
Uh, there was a question from. Okay. There was a not necessarily a question, but Kier wanted me to talk about the combat system. I'd love to if you have time.
Do we? Let me see if there's any questions
I
that may
sure do love
be
violence.
important. Go ahead. I think it'll be the last
Yeah.
thing we say then.
All
Go
right.
ahead.
So the combat system. One of the cool things about it is that it's basically already done. Like, there's multiple things in development, like crafting system, and like we're hoping to reach targets. But the combat system, I can confidently say, like like um has got some really cool stuff that like, for example, you can have different resistances to different elements or different types, and we'll have a bunch of documentation about exactly how it works, or maybe we'll keep it a secret so you have to figure it out yourself in RP or whatever. I don't know, but it the
Mm.
main idea is that any weapon can have both a type and an element, and it's either mundane or magical. And then the elements can be literally anything. They can be heat, cold, pierce, or they can be clown damage. Was an example given.
Okay.
Which, though, even though there aren't any guns that actually do clown damage, we have that capability of just throwing in literally any word, and that is an element. And so that's going to give our
Alright.
DMs some freedom to do more things on the fly and like um, n- giving them the confidence to like, if there's a reason for a new element or whatever, then or a new damage type that does special things, then like that's something that they can do, I guess. And there's a whole bunch of complicated ways of calculating resistance, and it's a the it's I'm really happy with what we've landed on because it means that as a character you can just continue to develop your character more and more, and you can keep getting armor and resistances and edge and
Don't I know it?
talents and abilities like potions or runes that just add more and more armor on top. And it's not going it's you're not going to worry about just breaking something because it's a sliding scale that, or it's a non-linear scale that like goes down over time. So you know, the more armor you have, the harder it is to get resistant. But you know, it's a lot of cool stuff going into it. That
I'm thinking about
Mhm.
clown damage now. I'm just like, what would
Well, I
that
mean,
entail?
any gun in your
Oh
hands is
god.
clown damage, Sketchu. Got him.
Got him.
Um, all right. Guess I'll close it up here. Uh,
uh,
this was episode. Ow, that
this
didn't
is clown
happen.
damage.
This was
So that
episode 2 of
clown
Slumber
damage. Oh
TV
shit.
with Sketchu. Uh, the I don't know what she does anymore. And Phase. Phase is getting an exorcism next week. Pray for him. Uh, and you'll see more of Sketchu's character, my character in next season. And if you don't, assume something bad happened to us midway through development. And guess we'll see you all next podcast.
All right, everybody, this is your favorite voice from the off. First of all, we from the Neon Divide podcast team, SlummerTV, want to thank our guests and our host today. So special shout outs to Veinhelm for hosting this episode. A lot and big thanks to Sketchu and Phasedragon to joining in today and sharing your insight in the development. And for everybody here today, please consider supporting the project on Patreon. We are currently completely crowdfunded like this, so every bit helps to push the development of this project further. With that said, we picked a random member of the community to be rated today, and the person who is going to be rated today is the wonderful Cici, playing Cornelius, a character of the Upper City. So everybody stand by for the raid, give Cici Neon Divide love, and once again, thank you everybody for stopping by.